Good day, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in. My name is Thandeka Ngubeni. I am a lecturer at the University of Johannesburg, the School of Tourism and Hospitality. Today we will be having a discussion based on entrepreneurship, and we are joined by very prominent women in the industry. So the topic for today is tourism, hospitality, and events post-COVID. Okay. So please also inform your friends to join in through different social media platforms. For University of Johannesburg School of Tourism and Hospitality, you are welcome to join through our and the University of Northampton, you are more than welcome to join through their YouTube channel as well as their LinkedIn profile. Okay, just bear in mind that you can send through your question through the comment section of the social media platforms. So can you please just make sure that this is a very interactive session and you are more than welcome to ask questions and comment as we go. All right, without wasting any more time, I'd like the ladies who are joining us today for the event to introduce themselves. Nwabisa, would you like to start?
Sure. Good afternoon. My name is Nwabisa Mayema. I'm coming to you from Cape Town in South Africa. I'm the Strategic Partnerships Director at the Branson Center of Entrepreneurship. We exist to change business for good. We do this by enabling entrepreneurs to grow their businesses in order to become investable, to become scalable. And of course, it's always for us about getting sure that business is partnering with each other in order to create, a healthy and inclusive economy that sustains thriving people and a healthy planet. From my side, I'm an entrepreneur for entrepreneurs. I'm always happy to be in any conversation that's about entrepreneurship.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you so much, Nwabisa. Carolene, would you like to go second?
Yeah, hello everybody. My name is Carolene Meli. I am an experienced strategist. So I work with predominantly small business owners and I help them create better experiences in their businesses, from all the way from employee experiences to customer experiences to special events. And my background is actually in the live events and entertainment industry. I spent 10 years on tour with Cirque du Soleil. And no, I wasn't an acrobat on the stage, but I did run the front of house in 17 different countries around the world. And I specialized in running the VIP experiences. So every time I create an experience, Cirque du Soleil is kind of the backdrop, the foundation, because it is such an incredible experience in itself. And I'm coming to you today from Cyprus, the island of Cyprus.
All right, interesting. Thank you so much, Carolyn. To go.
Thank you. Good morning from sunny Northampton. My name is Claire Drakeley and I'm the programme leader for the undergraduate management here at the University of Northampton. I'm also an entrepreneur. Prior to this role, I was head of enterprises and events for English National Ballet. So not dissimilar to Carolyn's experience, having worked with front of house VIPs, fundraising galas, open air festivals, as well as nights and so on. So before that, I ran my own events agency for 11 years. So I've been involved in lots of different things, and I'm broadening my business interests because I now also own and I'm involved with running a professional ice hockey team. Awesome with my friend, co-conspirator, which looks at the application of agile practice to real life.
Okay, thank you so much, ladies, for such amazing introduction and very eye-opening backgrounds to what you are doing in the industry. It's really, really important. Can you all also bear in mind that we have Francine who will be joining us later, and we'll also give her the platform to introduce herself. But just as a base for the whole discussion nowadays, why really take the route of entrepreneurship?
So I mean, what?
Did everyone hear me clearly?
Sorry, no. Could you say again?
So the first question is, of everything that is available there, an option to go for employment and other options, why did you decide to go through the entrepreneur route?
I guess I can start. On
For
my
me,
side,
sorry, go on.
On my end, I have only recently started working for myself. I'm 37 and I have spent my whole life my whole adult life as an employee. And I have recently just started working for myself. So it's a new venture for me. I've always been an employee, but COVID was what really made me take this leap and try to do something on my own and build my own personal brand. And the only way that I really was able to do that was off the back of those 10 years on tour, working in events, working in hospitality for so long. So yeah, for me, it's something that's just happened recently.
Okay. Claire, I see you wanted to go next.
That's fine.
Claire?
So I never planned to. Sorry, can you hear me? Okay. I never planned to be in. That was never part of my plan. I was going to be in for as long as possible. I wanted stability and security, and then my brain kicked in, and I could start to see opportunities, and I would never go back. Now, in terms of what's brilliant about my role at University of Northampton is that I still get to stretch my entrepreneurial wings with the other projects that I'm involved with, either on a voluntary or commercial basis. And what I love about entrepreneurship is that it's all under your control. It's the power is yours to manage your time, your effort, your energy, to achieve impact and to drive others around you, to take advantage, to enable people to succeed and amazing things. When I was running I loved being on an event site, looking around and then going, I made this. And that's an extraordinary achievement and a real buzz that I loved about being part of that and having seen it all the way through from generating the contract in the first place to delivering the event, evaluating it and moving on to the next stage and being involved in that strategically as well as operationally. So it's kind of in my blood, and I never realized it until about 15 years ago. And it took me a while to oh, that's what I'm here to do.
Okay, thank you so much, Claire. And that is very important, especially to the interest. It is very important. And when you start seeing those, that idea comes into existence, it becomes very, very interesting, especially for the person who has developed that idea. And Nwabisa, would you next?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
So the first question really is, we're trying to understand, why did you take the route of entrepreneurship?
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, from my side, I'm not an entrepreneur. I was, or rather, it's the idea that I'm not an entrepreneur who's running her own business. I ran my own businesses for 15 years. And I think for me, every now and again, when we speak about entrepreneurship, and I say this even from my position within the Branson Center, where we enable entrepreneurs, is that whilst we are in this moment of rather challenging times and uncertain times, we sometimes get a bit romanticized into this idea that entrepreneurship is the answer to all of the issues. And so if you're struggling with this, start a business. If you don't know what to do, start a business. And I think we got to take a step back first, which is almost back to your answer, Claire, which is, first of all, is there even an interest within yourself in terms of, do I really want to be an entrepreneur? 2, why do I want to be an entrepreneur? 3, what do I have in order to get for me to become an entrepreneur? There are 3 things you've got to have if you're going to start a business at any point: access to network, access to market, access to finance. If you don't have those 3 things happening within your, thinking about starting a business, it's going to be hard. Entrepreneurship is hard. Remember that it takes about 1,000 days before your business even starts making sense. If you have the appetite to have 3 years of what's going to feel lonely, what's going to feel a lot of times of anxiety, massive highs, and of course, very deep lows. If you have that, by all means, go for it with all your might. But if you don't have that appetite, if your risk, appetite isn't that high, it's okay to also say, I'm going to go look for a job, perhaps in an entrepreneurial organization. So I also just don't want us to get to a situation where we're almost evangelizing for everyone to become an entrepreneur, but it's rather saying that there is the option, there are opportunities, and I'm here to have that conversation around, if you're going to do it, let's always then start with the why. So for me, why was I an entrepreneur? Because it fulfilled my purpose. So my purpose is to connect people to each other and to opportunities. And every business that I've had has actually been about me fulfilling and enabling my purpose. And now, as an entrepreneur for entrepreneurs, I continue to enable my purpose in what I do. So for me, it goes back to understand your why.
Very important. And thank you so much, Nwabisa. And also looking at the work that you do at the Branson Center with the young is really, really very important. Thank you so much for that. Has just joined us and would like to give the floor to you, Francine. Good day. Thank you for joining us. Would you like to introduce yourself as well as what you do? And then we'll get to the first question for you to answer before we can move on.
Good day, everyone. I'm sorry I'm late. Technology happened. So my name is Francine Zana. I'm from Port Elizabeth. I'm the owner of Exclusive Hospitality Concepts. It's a company that I started after gaining experience in the hospitality industry. I started in the industry as a housekeeper, and then I worked my way up into management level. So now my company is one of the award-winning companies. We train and consult within the hospitality sector.
Okay, thank you so much, Francine. And so the first question, we're trying to understand why is it that people venture into entrepreneurship, and would like to understand from your perspective, why did you venture into entrepreneurship?
I can't hear you clearly, but I think the question is around why did I join entrepreneurship? Is that the question? Okay. As you have heard from my brief introduction, that I started in the hospitality sector as a cleaner. And I was actually very, very young when I started in the sector. I was 19 years old of age. I was a college dropout, had no hope, and the first job was me being employed as a cleaner. So I quickly learned that the hospitality sector is one sector that can train someone to become one of the best in terms of managing people and actually gaining more skills, which is as a person who is not a graduate, for me, the industry was the only thing that I know and I understand. So I've worked for 1 stars, 2 stars, up to 5 stars. So the concept or the idea of starting my own company kicked in when I started training other staff for one of the companies that I was working for, which is Mantis Collection. So I started my consulting firm because I saw the need of skilled staff within the sector, and also seeing that the people who are in that space are people that really don't get it. They just don't understand the hospitality sector. So it was very important for me to come in from that level, that I was a cleaner, I was a waiter, I was a receptionist, I was a scholar, so I understand the hospitality staff mindset. So I came up with this concept where I incorporate actually turning my experience into one of the best companies in the hospitality sector. So I converted the skill that I got from the sector into a company using my skill and experience.
Okay, so much, Francine. That was really, really a mouthful. And we get from what you just said that it is very, very important to really take this entrepreneurship idea very seriously, and also look at the resources that you have around. For you, it was connected with this. This being said, I'd like to move to our audience, guys. Please each comment, you post questions so that we can, speak to our panel and they can be able to answer your question. So that of discussion is really around opportunities within the tourism, hospitality, and event industry. In South Africa as well as the United Kingdom. I'd like to know, what opportunities would you say exist out? I'll start with you, Carolyn. Can you tell us any opportunities that you see that exist within this sector?
Yeah, so I think I want to start by echoing what Francine said, in the sense that it's really important to build up your skill set first before trying to start something. Especially for students, you're learning a lot of the theory, you're maybe doing a couple of practicals, but actually sinking your teeth into the industry and getting that experience, working in different countries, working with different languages, working with different kinds of people and different kinds of companies, whether it's a startup all the way through to, I worked for Cirque du Soleil, which is a very well-established, over 30-year in existence company. It is so important to do that. But the really great thing about the travel, events, hospitality world is you get to have the flavor of entrepreneurship without even really knowing it. There's no 9 to 5 in this kind of industry, right? You can work seasonal. I live in the Mediterranean, so obviously the summer that's coming up, all the hiring is starting right now for the summer season. And in events, it's very date specific, right? You can work on an event that is one day. You can work on, the Dubai Expo, for example, goes for a very, very long time. And what is really interesting about this moment in time, I think that this is a very interesting time to be studying events, especially events, hospitality, tourism, because we are in a time that everyone is almost working from scratch and trying things. People aren't afraid to try things because they've literally been decimated over the last 2 years. So there's a lot of creativity. There's a lot of risk-taking within the parameters of the business and for the business owner. But I think right now it is really exciting to be part of this industry. And my biggest advice in terms of looking for opportunities would be to follow the seasons, especially in Europe in particular. You know, that's where I'm based. Everything is seasonal here in this industry. You go from summer season in the Mediterranean, then you go to winter season in the Alps and in Northern Europe. And there's so many opportunities that are short. They're contract based. They're, you know, and between 5 to 8, 9 months. So you get to sink your teeth into this new world and you get to experience it a little bit, but then it ends. And then you go get to do something either similar or completely different within the industry. And for me, that is the most important thing. The first kind of 3 years out of school, my number one piece of advice really when we're looking for opportunities is to try as many different things as possible. I wouldn't have the expertise that I have now, the leverage that I have now, the personal brand or business that I have now, had I not have done that in my, you know, the last 10 years of experience. So yeah, that would be my take on that, especially in Europe, is really taking advantage of the seasons, because that's when all the hiring, all the opportunities happen. And if you go at the tail end of both, that's where you'll find some really golden opportunities.
Okay, thank you so much, Carolene. That's a very great perspective, you know, from the United Kingdom side, students to know and see what is available for them and what is it that they can tap into. Perspective from a South African context as to at point in time what you know, that students can go and explore in regards to hospitality tourism, the event space. Nwabisa, did you hear me clearly?
Sorry, it was a bit patchy, so I wasn't sure if that was for me. So if I've heard correctly, you were asking what opportunities, so similar question to Carolene, I'm assuming?
Yes, opportunities.
Great. So, you know, from my side, within the Branson Center, we're not necessarily specific to the tourism industry. So I can almost speak in terms of what opportunities and how people, when you're starting to think about starting a business, particularly at a stage where you're about to leave university and you've completed your studies. So for me, the opportunities always come down to what are the challenges that you experience? What are the pain points that you experience as a user? So if you feel that maybe ticketing systems could be improved and you've got an idea, explore that idea, because you probably aren't the only person experiencing that pain point. If there's something about access to maybe food and drink, that maybe whether it's about the choices that are available at different places and different experiences, you probably aren't the only person or the last person to experience that pain point. So it's saying that as you're generating an idea in terms of starting a business, you don't have to think about the cleverest thing or the thing that's going to be, you know, a massive game changer, but think about what are the real life, everyday concerns that people are actually experiencing, because your business will start showing itself up when people are willing to pay you for your time or willing to pay you for the products that you're able to produce. It's not about you always convincing people to come on board to you. So try many different things that go to solving real everyday problems specific to the industry. And that's where your opportunities will sit.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Nwabisa, for that perspective. For us, you know, very real situations and see what is it that we can do about that and apply what we know in for us to, you know, develop great businesses. And that is important. Minute and go on our comment section as we go. And I have a question from the students, and they'd like to know and based on the work that you do, there is a whole lot of businesses that and, you know, a whole lot of work that goes into what you do. So they'd like to know, how do you manage your time and to ensure that your businesses run successfully? Francine, Francine? To yourself?
Oh, can you please repeat the question? I didn't get that. Sorry, man.
Okay, so looking at the comment section, so the student would like to know that from what you have mentioned, a whole lot of things on businesses. So they'd really like to know, how do you manage your time during your busy schedules and also make sure that your businesses are successful?
Okay. I manage my time by employing the correct team. What do I mean? You know, with the hospitality industry, hospitality, I always say to people, it is 95% practical and 5% theory. So mine was to employ the correct staff, because in as much as I'm based in Port Elizabeth, most of my clients are all over South Africa. So, in order for me to be able to deliver the best and manage my time accordingly, mine was to employ the correct staff, train them, and try so hard for them not to be me, but to understand the concept, where I'm coming from. And also, it's very important. It was very important for me to get people with the correct attitude, and they didn't have to have the same passion as me, because I'm super passionate. So I had to find people who understand the concept, where the company is coming from, what is our vision, where and etc. etc. So I have an amazing team that I work with. So they help me a lot.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. And you have just mentioned that you also offer your services in other parts of the country as well. Would you like to get as to where else do your training?
Okay, with the trainings, I operate in Johannesburg, I operate in Cape Town, I operate everywhere. For me as a brand, I think you heard me when I said I started my company as a cleaner, and and then I got to management level. It wasn't easy now transition from that into a businesswoman. So it was very important for me as a brand to branch out and go out there, go and network and sell myself, and actually try to open the eyes of my potential clients that, you know what, my name is Francine, I'm training, I'm consulting, but this is what sets me apart. I'm doing it differently. I'm so practical. I understand how these people think because I was one of them. I understand how to turn things around when we're talking staff attitude, when we're talking standards, when we're talking certain things. So I quickly grew because I think people listened and they understand that this is what the industry needs. The industry needs people who understand and people who strive in service excellence. So that also, for me, it was more about my attitude as well. So I operate around South Africa. I've been to Africa. I've been to Nairobi. I've been to Namibia. I'm one person who's not scared to try new things. I'm that girl who book a flight and go to any African continent because I want to know, do they need my services? And it was very important for me to show people that, you know what, I'm here and I exist, and I'm different. And, that way I've managed to grow. I'm all over. You find me everywhere. You say, Francine, I have properties in Johannesburg, I have property everywhere. I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, you did. Thank you so much. That was a great response, and also to keep in mind that you also offer for households, not to forget. And thank you so much. And can I
Pleasure.
include you, Claire? Are you back? Can you hear the question? Did you get to hear the question, Claire? So the question was around really, we had on our comments asking, how do you make sure that you manage your time and make sure that your business is very successful with so much that in your businesses as well as companies?
Thank you. Of time management, as front around you is invaluable, and makes all the difference. Whether that so Francine said, having a great team makes all the difference, and that's at home as much as at work. I have got really good at finding co-collaborators, and I don't know if the others on the panel have had the same experience, but where you find somebody who you can really work with in a particular area, that you trust, and that you can really engage with, that's invaluable, because it makes everything easier. Yeah, and I think the challenge is that we are juggling lots of things all the time, and we get really good at it. It becomes quite hard to let things go sometimes, and I think that's something I struggle with, is if I'm not performing to my own standards. So I have to, this is where the 80% awesome thing came in, actually, and it is around that actually 80% is high performance. If we're trying to work at 100% all the time, we don't have any capacity to deal with change, and that's what COVID really kind of threw in our faces, was that actually we can't be going at 100% all the time. It's just not sustainable. So in some slack, and that's partly by working with people that we trust and who can help us. It's also about
All right, Claire, thank you so much for your input in this regard and this question. We really appreciate it. And definitely, there's a hole that happens once you start and you have a lot to do, and now you need some form of time management to make sure that everything runs smoothly. And these different advice that we get from our panel are really, really very important. We'll move on to the next set of question that we had for the panel. The other one, we would like to really understand what are the characteristics as well as the skills that the students need to really develop for them to really succeed in the entrepreneurship space. I would like Nwabisa to kindly please respond to this question.
Sure.
Nwabisa, did you hear me clearly?
Yes, I did. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Great. So, I mean, it's one of those things in terms of are entrepreneurs born or are they made? And that's still one of those questions where we don't really know how to answer that. So in terms of the personal characteristics, I think as an entrepreneur, it really is, if you can align why you do your business and what you do in your business very much with who you are, suddenly you're the right person doing the right thing. So I'm not going to sit and list the characteristics in terms of what kind of person you need to be, because we're all unique. However, what are the attributes that we need to have in order to, at least start ensuring some sort of success at a fundamental level and a very basic level? It's one, the idea of having patience. It takes time for some of these things to come through in our businesses. And of course, patience also allows for us to be able to cope with an ever-changing world. I think the rate of change that we're experiencing in the world right now is almost kind of never been seen before, coupled with, the rate of change that comes through with technology. So then it means you need to be curious and be the kind of person who's okay with asking questions, understanding and trying to learn new things. And then, of course, being able to take feedback and follow advice. Feedback can come from either your customers, it can come from people who are potential partners, it can come from people who may be wanting to put money into your business. And sometimes you may not you may not enjoy the feedback, but be open and be able to receive feedback. I think those are very interesting characteristics or attributes to bring into your business as you go about your journey. The rest, you will only figure it out as you go through this adventure. That's all that it is. You at some point you have to then be brave as well to just get on with it,
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Nwabisa. Were you done speaking? I think I lost you a bit there. Okay, can anyone still hear clearly? Can I move to the next question? Comment section, particular question that is direct. So the students are asking, if I want to package experiences, where I start?
That is a great question.
Carolene, would you like to take this one?
Definitely. So if you want to package experiences, how you start. I'm assuming that means that you want to put on experiences, like maybe events. For whoever asked that in the comments, if you want to clarify a little bit, but I'll run with that as the theme. It's really important to understand who the people that you would be creating these experiences for, right? So for example, when I was at Cirque du Soleil, we knew who our guests were going to be, whether we were in Spain, whether we were in the United States, whether we were in any country around the world, we knew the type of guest that was coming to the show. So we knew how to tailor the experience to them. Now, as I work on my own as an experienced strategist, I work with clients from many different industries. So to give you an example, I'm working with a startup right now in the United States who are focused on NFTs and creating VIP experiences through the metaverse. One of my clients is also a dentist in Chicago who is moving into a new space and they want to create new experiences for their employees. And I could go on and list a whole bunch of different clients. But the reason that I'm able to work with these clients is because I understand the kind of experiences that they're looking for, or I understand the kind of experiences that would help their businesses grow. So when we look at even in events, hospitality, tourism, I think of things like the employee experience, because oftentimes in these industries, employees don't stay with companies for a long period of time. There's a lot of contract work, there's a lot of seasonal work. I look at what the customer experience would be like. Who are the customers? Are they regulars in a town? Are they tourists that are coming from afar? Are they VIP clients? Are they just day-to-day clients? And so asking a lot of those questions, getting very, very, very curious. And for me, I don't work in a particular industry anymore, but I come from one particular niche. So trying to figure out, do I want to sit within one area, maybe entertainment, maybe only tourism, maybe in one specific location, or maybe it's one-off events that you want to create. And then trying to get very curious about what is actually needed in the market, because I have learned this the hard way. You could come up with the most amazing eventer experience, but if nobody else thinks it's amazing, or if nobody else wants that, then you're never going to be able to package that and sell it. So I think the very, very first thing is getting very curious, asking a lot of questions to potential clients that you may want to work with, or potential companies that you may want to come on board and help them develop their experiences. So that would be my number one piece of advice in regards to packaging experiences.
Thank you so much, Carolene. That was very mouthful. Considering the work that you do within the events industry, it's such a creative industry, and definitely being curious is very important. I'll move on to our next question from our comment section. We have a question from a student asking, can you share on how to deal with inferior treatment due to our historical background, as our industry is not diverse enough? And how do you manage your cash flow? Nwabisa, would you like to take this question? The work that you do at the center and the experience of the young ask for assistance, what kind of advice do you give them when it comes to this?
Sure. So I think I'll start with the cash flow question, because I think it comes down to entrepreneurs being able to be a little bit more upfront and being a little bit more honest with their specific clients. So sometimes what happens as an entrepreneur, you're quite keen to say yes to everything and say that you can do everything. So it's important when you're working with your clients or your customers that you actually view them as partners, which means a partnership has an open channel of communication, which is saying we can do X, Y, Z if you're asking us for us to do it. But it's important that you understand that as an emerging business, as a small business, we have issues with cash flow, or we run a very tight cash flow runway. And so it's important that if you're going to come on board as my customer, you are willing to pay me, 50% upfront. I will then make sure that I do the work and I deliver the work and I do the work that I said I would do. And then please, can you make sure that you're able to pay me, within 7 days or no more than 30 days from the date of completion. So it's about making sure that you really are establishing your terms upfront with your customer, so that they're also in the picture in terms of what kind of business that they're working with, and help them understand that by working together, they're helping to grow your business, keep people employed through your business. And so that's one way of managing your cash flow. The other side, of course, is coming down to the actual planning of how you go about your business, how you manage your cash flow in terms of what systems do you have in place, what banking procedures do you have in place, what controls do you have in place. Is it a case of a business that has money in and money out? But it's very important that you also are able to plan how much money do we need to put aside so that we can also absorb some delays and lags, and so we're able to pay, our suppliers. So as much as you also then have conversations with your customers, be sure that you have an open line of communication with your suppliers as well, so that they understand what kind of business you are, in terms of saying that perhaps you may not be always able to pay everything up front, for example, but you can pay things against certain invoices, and you can pay things, according to payment terms and installments and that kind of thing. So it's really being very, very honest within your business. And then in terms of that, what feels like the inferior treatment is actually somewhere along the line is to not necessarily view it as inferior treatment. It is, of course, but not to kind of respond to it in that way, but rather respond to it as a communication problem, which is saying, I need you to understand this is the kind of business that I am. This is how we work. And then your best way to create trust and credibility in case people think that you don't deserve your money is to deliver on time every time, and to deliver literally what we would call your brilliant basics. Know what are the things that you want to do every day brilliantly, get those things done, and be known in the industry for those things, and people will then be willing to pay you on time every time, hopefully. Otherwise, when it all gets too troublesome, make sure that you're able to talk to some partners who are able to then come on board to back you and help you to then resolve any conflict that can arise from cash flow and not being managed properly because your customers maybe aren't paying you on time as they should.
Nwabisa? Thank you so much, Nwabisa. And in this instance, with what I'm getting, consistency is very important in delivering a great service to your clients in order for them to buy into your idea. And we have another very interesting question from our students, and they are asking, how do I know my idea will exist? I think that's one of the very important questions that people always ask themselves, because it's the great idea, looks great on paper, but how do I know that it is going to materialize and actually become a business? Claire, would you take this question?
Yes, thank you. The thing is, and I'm hoping that the rest of the panel will back me up on this, is that you don't know. And this is part of being an entrepreneur, is your appetite for risk. But it's also about doing your research. So you're not going into this blindly. You're doing your preparation. You're thinking it through. You're working through your cash flow. You're working through, you know, down to the nitty gritty of how much money you need to be generating to break even, how much you need to be turning a profit, what that then looks and feels like, what that looks like in terms of your capacity, in terms of your supply chain. And then the biggest part of this is about understanding your customers. So you can plan as much as you like, and it can be a brilliant idea, but if there isn't actually any need for it or any demand, then it isn't going to work, or it's unlikely to work. So spend some time getting to know your potential customers, what their needs are. We use a model of the value proposition. And value really is what makes the world go round, as far as I'm concerned, at least. So understanding what value you bring into that mix and what people are prepared to pay for it, and how you can communicate that value so that it's got a tangible cash value into your business. And then try it. If you can, try a pilot or a kind of short-term test. I would urge you to test it as quickly and as frequently as possible, because that way you make mistakes, you learn where you can and can't go. Nwabisa.
No, I was going to say, if I'm just the quickest answer to that for me is you will know that your idea is working when people are willing to pay you. That's it.
Definitely. Thank you so much, ladies, for your responses. I have to move to the next question. Another set of questions. Students. Now, they have been listening, and they have mentioned that one of the panel members is trying, many different things, or trying many things as many as possible. So they'd really like to know, would you advise that they try anything else outside of the industry itself?
I can
Francine,
answer that.
to answer this question.
For me personally, I'd like to say that I've always been in the hospitality. I want to use myself as an example. I've always been in the hospitality sector, and I think I've mastered the art and the craft within the sector. So I think, to answer that, you let your passion guide you, because I'm one person who really does not like to say yes and then you fail and then you come back. in this, I think the answer will be follow your heart. I really don't want to say yes or no, because I've done hospitality all my life and it's working for me because it allows me to be innovative. We had COVID-19 and things were just not working. And then it just allowed me to work around and be able to make money and be more creative and innovative. So maybe another panelist will have a better answer. But for me, hospitality is one of the best industries that allows one to grow and expand. Yeah, there's always something to do if you are in the hospitality and tourism sector. So it just needs one to channel their passion and also be creative and innovative. There's always something to do around the industry. You know, even with COVID-19, we still survived. So for me, myself, and I, hospitality is just the way to go, and tourism. But it needs creative minds. It needs people who have correct attitude. It needs people who are innovative as well, you know, and people who believe in themselves. So that is the most important tool that one needs, you know. You can never have someone who's telling you otherwise. You actually need to be self motivated and tell yourself that I'm just gonna do it, you know. I had someone asking if they are to venture into the events space and package and all these things. There's already a lot of people who are in that space. Yours is to just identify what sets you apart. You know, we can be 1,000 do the same thing, but you just need to be different in a way you do things, the way you package your products. So for me, I'm all for hospitality, and there's a room for growth. You know, thank you.
Thank you so much, Francine. That was very mouthful and very helpful, especially industry itself. It is really, really very vast, and there's a whole lot of these. That's the end. Carolene, comment on this particular question.
Yeah, for me in particular, I have not stayed in the same industry. I've moved around, so I'm kind of opposite of Francine. And where I really started to jump around is when I realized that there were skills that I wanted to develop further. And I'll give you the perfect example. So I worked for Cirque du Soleil, like I said. So I was really working in events, hospitality, that kind of thing. And I won't go into the story, but ended up on a cruise ship. I was the assistant cruise director, so I led the entertainment department. I had never stepped foot on a cruise ship in my life. I'm not somebody as a traveler who would ever go on a cruise personally, but I ended up there and something really amazing happened. Even though I had no experience in the cruise industry, I was very good at my job almost immediately because of all the skills that I had built up in events in hospitality. So when I look at it, I look at what are the skills that I want to grow. And if those of you that are watching, if you want to venture into entrepreneurship, for me, it's very much about building different skills and where can you go to build those skills. So I would even write down a couple of, write down all the skills you have currently in the industry, not on paper. And then what are the skills that you don't have that you think you really need? And then figure out where you can go and find them. And that's what I did. I moved around. I mean, always staying within events, hospitality, and tourism, but I definitely moved around different levels of positions and different, cruise ship, circus tent, retail a little bit, because my focus was building my skills and then seeing if those skills could be applied to a brand new team. Was the type of leader that I was at Cirque du Soleil going to be the same as the type of leader that I was going to be on a cruise ship? The only way that I was going to figure that out was to actually do it. So that would be my take on that.
All right, thank you so much, Carolyn. Important. And I saw, a preview of the Bit Let's Love. It looks incredible. I really hope people. And then we have our students are if they should continue if they want to pursue entrepreneurship. Claire, I'd like to pose this one on you because you work a lot with students. Would you like to help us out on this question?
Yes, and I'm happy to. And I think this is a question that a lot of students in our sector struggle with, because there's a kind of innate tension between, should I study this or should I get on and do this? And you know, what's the point kind of conversation. And I would refute that in terms of saying what we teach at university is far more than simply the books or the experience. It's the combination of the two. It's the synergy that we get by virtue of applying learning that's been built up over decades of experience, alongside that practical application that means that when our students graduate, they are truly useful. And I wanted to pick up on a couple of the other responses to questions where about the idea of being a utility player. As an entrepreneur, we have to be able to do everything. We have to understand every element of our businesses, and so we have to build those skills, as Carolene just mentioned. And when I took on the ice hockey club, I'd never run an ice hockey club before in my life. I'd never run a sports team, but it was a business model that's very similar to the ballet, probably very similar to Cirque du Soleil, to be honest, as well. And so I kind of went, oh, it's okay. I've got some of this in my back pocket. So I think of our degrees and our education process and our theory and our research as building up our toolkits. They're the things that we have in our back pockets for when we meet a situation that we've never been in before. And so when I started with the ice hockey club, firstly, it was about bravery, and it was about sticking my head above the parapet and going, I think we can do this better. At the time, the club was falling apart, and I said, I think we can do this better. And I then opened it up to everybody. Went, who wants to play? Who wants to come and do this with me? Who's brave enough? And all of a sudden, and within 2 weeks, I'd got a board of directors, I'd got a team of advisors, I'd got an ice contract, I'd got league conversations, and I'd got the beginnings of my team, my ice team. And I was like, oh, and we've got over 150 grand in capital. And it was just that kind of, this is amazing and extraordinary. And so I couldn't do that without having a really solid background in business and in and creativity and planning and organization and communication and influencing and engaging people and the financial know-how. All of those things are the building blocks that enabled me to take advantage of that opportunity when it came. And that really is the fundamental thing that you learn both through practice and through study. And the two of them together create that synergy that enables success, ultimately.
Definitely, Claire. I'll have to agree with you on that one. So education is very important, as well as the soft skills. So they do actually go hand in hand, okay, to create a very agile and a great business. Before we close, ladies, let me first check if we have any moments on our comment section. I think that was the last question for the day. I would like you ladies to advise students. Final advice is to what advice can you give, or what is it that should they do or be aware of if they were to want to venture into entrepreneurship? And with this, I'll start with you, Nwabisa.
I think,
Was the question clear, Nwabisa?
Yes. So I think I'm going to be that person who's probably going to sound like a stuck record and go back to where I started, which is, if you're going to think about starting a business, go all the way back to the why. Why do you do what you do? And understand your purpose, because once you've got your purpose clearly articulated, it will start giving you a sense of direction in terms of what kind of business you want to start, what kind of business owner and business leader you want to be, what will work for you and what won't work for you, and how to navigate both crisis of uncertainty and a crisis of opportunity when you actually almost have too much coming your way. It's understanding your why. So if we can all just do a little bit of work around your purpose, you'll start being a little bit clearer in terms of which direction you should be going in.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Nwabisa. Carolene, would you like to go second?
For me, it is, my piece of advice would be to go and work with entrepreneurs, because I think building a business is very sexy right now. It's very kind of trend, it's on trend. But and I'm speaking from personal experience, I have worked with 3 startups now in full-time role and realized that I absolutely did not want to do that. I've tried to start a business on my own, selling my own kind of products. I didn't like that either, but I love working with entrepreneurs. And that's where I found kind of my sweet spot. And again, the only reason I know that now is because I tried all the things. So my piece of advice would be to go and work with people who have experience in entrepreneurship, in building business, creating startups, creating art, creating anything, and really learning from them really deep in the industry, because you're going to figure things out very, very quickly from them. And nobody will know better about starting a business, about being an entrepreneur, than the people that are actually doing it. So that would be my advice, is to go work for them, with them, even if it's for a year, 2 years, and then figure out if that's, and then going all the way back to Nwabisa, her question then, figuring that out, but through actually working with these kind of people. So for me, that's what I have done. That is where I have seen the most success. And that has made me now so incredibly aligned with my talents, with my expertise, and with really my mission that I've created for myself in this world.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you so much, Carolyn. Claire, would you like to give some advice to the students?
Yes, happily. I do it every day. My point would be about learning from everything, every day. And it's something I very much practice what I preach, in terms of this learning. I don't know everything. I'm not able to do everything. I want to, and I am competitive and ambitious and all those things, but I get to where I want to go, my goals, because I learn from the people around me, from the experiences I have. I reflect on them, I evaluate them, I think about my own emotional state and well-being, and I think about where I perform best, the people I work with most effectively, and how I can do more, how I can progress more. Not in a big stick to beat myself with, in that I'm not enough at all. The opposite. In fact, rather going, I've done this. Now what do I do next? How do I build on this? How do I achieve the impact I want to achieve? How do I help other people? How do I achieve my why, as Nwabisa has talked about? So for me, it'd be about learning every day through every experience you have.
Thank you so much, Claire. Definitely, that is very true. It looks like we just lost Francine. But thank you so much, ladies, for and making sure that we answer the students' question and helping them out through this journey from the student side. Thank you so much for the engagement. It was a very interactive discussion that we had. It was a really insightful event. I would like to take just a few seconds to see if Francine will be joining us just for her last word before we close this session. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in, both from the panel as well as for our students. It was a really informative webinar. We really appreciate your participation and showing up. The webinar, we really appreciate your participation. Do enjoy the rest of your day.